As I look back through my journey of growing multiple businesses using courses, coaching programs, and services, I started to realize there were some fundamentals that I would do all over again. And these fundamentals came from our most successful courses that grew the fastest and grew the quickest. And when I look back at the courses that either never got created, even though I wanted to create them, or the courses that I launched that didn't do very well, they were missing one or more of the fundamentals that we're going to go over today. So if you're serious about growing your course-based business, whether it's a coaching program, a one-on-one service, maybe it is a fulfillment type of service, but you're an expert and you want to launch something based off of your skills and knowledge online and you don't know how, you absolutely need to listen to this episode because again, these 6 fundamentals have been present every time we had a successful product. And every time we had a product that struggled, they were missing one of the things we're going to cover today. So if that's interesting to you, well, keep on listening.
Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about is the fundamentals of building a business online, a course-based business, a service-based business, coaching program-based business, consulting-based business. We're going to talk about the fundamentals of that. Over the last 12 years, I've built several of these types of businesses, everything from teaching YouTube marketing to selling real estate videos online, real estate courses, video courses, messaging courses, and more. And so obviously, right now we have a messaging and communication and content style business, and we've grown it pretty quickly when we started it. And the reason why it grew quickly is because it wasn't my first business. And I used these fundamentals that we're going to go over today. These are all things that I would do and a process that I would follow if I was starting over from zero. But more specifically, I wanted to do this and I wanted to do this episode because most of you probably know by now, and if you're listening to this when this is released, my buddy James Wedmore has been a huge mentor for me over the past few years. In fact, we actually had a business together that did really, really well, called Local Video Academy back in the day, teaching local businesses videographers how to sell to local businesses and build a business around that, because that's one thing that I did way back in the day. And so during the process of launching that program, I learned a lot and saw the right and the wrong way of doing things. And that process, and every little detail of it and everything that you would need is actually inside of James's program called Business by Design, which for most of you know is opening up pretty soon. And for those of you that are interested in joining, pay attention to our podcast, our social media, get on our email list, because if you decide to join, we're going to have a list of bonuses we're going to give you for free if you join through our link. And by the way, this is going to include like a 6 to 8 week long mentorship with me to actually go through the steps and things that we're going to be talking about today. So I'll be looking over your stuff. It's a rare opportunity. You don't get very often. So pay attention to that. That's coming soon. So with that being said, what I wanted to do is dive into the process that I would follow, the process that James has inside of Business by Design, and the process we're going to be helping you with over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And the very first step is not designing your course. You know, I did this, and this is one of the mistakes that I made when I first got started, was I just started designing the program. And I remember one time specifically, I was like, I'm going to create this course and I'm going to teach everything that I know for local businesses to market their business online. I'm going to teach them, I'm going to have the course, going to teach them YouTube marketing. It's going to teach them SEO. It's going to teach them local places, like all of that stuff. And I remember getting this notebook, going to like Vaughn's or wherever, Staples or whatever, buying a brand new notebook, this huge notebook. And I just remember mapping out, okay, I'm going to have this video and this course, and I'm going to have this module, and I'm going to have this training here, and pages and pages and pages of this robust course, thinking like, man, this is so great. This is so great because there's so much great information here that business owners are going to love it, because I'm literally teaching them everything. And I remember going to the coffee shop and sitting down. My wife was there and she was getting a little coffee and doing her thing and mapping it out. And I'm thinking like, man, this is going to be the thing that changes our life. Like we're going to have so much success and da 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 da. Well, what ended up happening is I never even produced the course because I looked at it. I'm like, oh my God, so many videos, so overwhelming. Like it was so easy just to sit there and write out everything I was going to do. But then when it came down to it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to take forever. Like to record all these videos, edit all these videos, create the content, the worksheets. I'm like, oh my God. And then I never did it because I moved on to something that was a little more easy, easier. I think that's when I started doing like video SEO and things like that. And the reason why I tell you that story is because I think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people will sit down and their first step is designing this course that they think is going to change the world for people. And maybe it will and maybe it won't. Who knows, right? But that's not the right approach to take. No one really cares about you dumping all of your information into a course or a product. And there's a couple of reasons why this doesn't work that well. Number one is sometimes we don't need to dump everything you know into a course or a product. For example, when I had my video SEO course, there was a lot of things that I could teach on video marketing and video SEO and all of, like getting YouTube traffic and all of that stuff. But I didn't. I just focused on video SEO. And why did I do that? Because there was one specific problem that I was solving with my skills and knowledge. And that problem was they didn't know how to rank their videos. I didn't say, hey, I'm going to teach you everything about YouTube marketing. I'm going to teach you everything about how to do call to actions, how to edit your videos, how to record your videos. I said, no, what is the one big problem? Okay, they can't rank their videos. I'm just going to do a course on that. And I don't think a lot of people in the beginning take a moment to ask, what problems am I solving and can I solve with my skills and knowledge? And this is the very first step that I would take, is get very clear. Like maybe, write out all of your skills, write out all of your knowledge. And then in the next column, ask yourself, what real, actual, unwanted experiences or problems am I solving for people with these skills and knowledge? And then you're going to have this list of all of these things that you could help people with. And you're going to want to pick one or several that are related that you know are the biggest, most painful problems that people are going through. Those will always be the ones that make the most amount of money, but also this sort of direction will help you start to craft what actually needs to go into your program to not only make it successful as far as sales go, but to also make it successful when people go through it. Because sometimes people don't need this big, huge, long, robust course teaching them A to Z on everything. So the very first thing that I would do is get very clear on the problems that I'm solving with my skills and knowledge. And look, sometimes you can get to a core of a problem and it does really well. And it is everything that you know. And that's okay. But I'm just saying we don't want to do it by default because we may not need that. And so when we first get clear on that, we start to get more clear on our messaging. It also sets us up into the right direction to head with our messaging. So I'll give you guys a couple examples here. If you're someone who teaches people how to create better courses, for example, you're like, I teach people how to be better teachers, how to create better courses that are more effective. Instead of saying like, here's a course on how to design your course to make it effective, we have to ask, okay, what's the problem here? The problem is like, well, they're either getting a lot of refund requests or they're not getting many upsells or they're not getting a lot of testimonials from their course. It's like, okay, that's your marketing. That's your messaging. That's what your course should be about. It's not about being a better teacher. It's about how do we get you less refunds, more upsells, word of mouth, and all this other stuff by being a better teacher and designing a better course. So when we start to understand the problems that people are actually dealing with, it makes our messaging more clear. It makes the course more clear. It makes the promise more clear, all of that stuff. And by the way, even when you create all of these problems in a column, you still need to test it and tweak it and put it out there and see how it does and all of that stuff. And that's what step number 2 is like, once we have the problems, the next thing that I would do is actually just test the messaging around it. I would start creating content around these problems, not the solution. Again, I would not create content around the solution. I would be creating content around the problems that are going on inside of someone's life. Why are they happening? getting them to self-diagnose themselves of having those problems. This is all stuff that I would start to do. Use those problems to inspire even educational content. I would be using throughplay campaigns on Facebook to get more traffic to those videos. And I would just be testing and tweaking and looking at and trying to figure out what is the best way to message these problems. And are these problems actually landing with people? Are these problems actually stuff that people are going through? Is it actually stuff that people are dealing with or not? Because if they are, then it's like, great, you found a goldmine of great messaging to help you sell this product. And so we want to start spending some time with the messaging. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. If you want to invest money to speed it up, you can. But that's the next thing I would be doing, is because when I move into sales or step number 3, which is finding and using a sales strategy, I don't want to be guessing at what's going to work and what's not going to work. And so step number 3 is using the messaging that is working. And again, it's going to be a little bit of a guess, and it kind of always is, right? Like, we never really know what's going to work 100% of the time. And we're always adapting, we're always changing, and we're always growing, and we're always adding in new messaging and new problems. But we want to stack the odds in our favor. So the next thing for me is like, okay, great. Now that I have the odds in my favor, or more so where they were before I began, we want to figure out the sales strategy. And so for me, I always love webinars. I think they're the best, but you could do something else. And inside of Business by Design, James has all sorts. He has every system you'd possibly need, every webinar system, video series, live launch, challenges, beta launches, all of that stuff. Every little ounce detail, the email script that you're going to need is outlined there for you step by step. Okay. So if you're kind of confused on where to go, you should probably consider Business by Design. And then obviously in our 6 to 8 week bootcamp, we'll be helping you with that as well. For me, I love webinars, but here's the catch. I actually don't think that you guys should be selling your course. I don't think at this point you should even have a course created, to be honest with you. I think what you should be selling is a one-on-one offer, or a group offer, like a group coaching program or a 6-week boot camp or something along those lines. Here's the reason why. We don't actually know at this point what totally needs to go in the course, what's going to work, what's not going to work. There might be things that you may not need in the course that you think you do, that you'd spend time putting in there, and you may not have. And so what I find is when we start with a one-on-one offer, we can charge a little bit more money for it, number one. But number two, there's so many benefits in that, meaning that you get to hear their pain points, their mistakes, their problems. You get to hear their language. You can ask them questions, go deeper with their language. There's so much from a messaging perspective that you can start to do with these people and learn from them and learn from your audience and your customers, number one. But number two, your one-on-one clients and one-on-one people or group settings are going to be the ones who always get the best results. And it makes sense, right? They're the ones who have the most support. Whoever generally has the most support generally sees the biggest and best results. So yeah, so you want to start with that, because you're also going to start to get these testimonials. You're going to get people who are singing your praises. You're also going to learn about your own teaching style. Like, you may have taught something one way to someone and it didn't land, it didn't resonate. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what you're talking about. And then you can sit there and go, oh, the way I was teaching it to this person doesn't land. Maybe when I create my course, I need to teach it differently. Maybe when I go into my course, I need to create it differently. So what happens through this one-on-one process and when you're working with people is you become a better teacher. You learn how to teach your stuff better. You learn how to teach your stuff better so that you become a better teacher and you get them better results. And when you get them better results, now you have word of mouth. Now you have amazing testimonials and case studies and social proof. You're going to be able to create a better course, which is then going to propel you to even more testimonials, even more case studies, even more, maybe even renewals, people who buying more of your offers, fans for life, right? So the one-on-one thing is great because it's multi-beneficial. Like, you just multiple benefits you're going to get from it, not just one singular thing. So for me, I always like doing webinars because I think they're super simple. You just do a presentation, and then you make your pitch and your offer. And hopefully by then you have some sort of audience, but you can also just use Facebook ads. And even using Facebook ads will be a great test on how to do that. So there is a process on webinars. If you decide to get into BBD and you come into our bootcamp, we will be talking about that and we will be helping craft that with you. But there is a process for webinars that make them really effective. We're going to need great messaging. We're going to have to figure out the messaging, right? We're going to need great messaging. But there is a process for it. And then also what we need to do is work on the offer. So now when we go to sell, we can start to work on what that offer is. And by the way, the offer isn't just like one-on-one. The offer isn't just like, hey, I'm going to do a one-on-one thing. There needs to be a promise attached to the offer. So the offer basically needs to be a continuation of why they're there in the first place, but also an expansion on what they're going to be getting and learning and doing. So for example, if I'm going to do a webinar on how to create engaging content and I teach them one style of content, I'm going to continue that theme with my offer, but I'm going to expand. So it's like, hey, we taught you one thing here today. We still need this sort of engagement. We need this type of engagement. We need this type of engagement, like connection and self-diagnosing and thought leadership and thought reversal. These are all the different things that we're going to need. And now what we're going to do is bring you into this container where we're able to craft those things with you. And then now you guys can structure bonuses based on things that are their biggest objections. Like, I can't do it on myself, or I need more help or whatever. So you can offer like bonuses could be one-on-one calls or this or that, or I don't know, whatever it may be. So you start to structure all of these things to craft a really good offer around the one-on-one service. So you have to understand your one-on-one service or your group thing that you're going to offer them isn't the actual offer. That's the product. The offer is how you position and present it to them. And that's an art form in itself, which BBD in our workshop will help you guys with crafting really great offers, no-brainer offers that people go like, oh yeah, that's definitely me, or I definitely need that. Okay. So let's recap where we're at before we move on to step number 4. So the first thing that I would do is put all my skills and knowledge in one column, all the problems I solve with those skills and knowledge in the other one. I would then look for like great ways to incorporate messaging around it. I would great ways to incorporate the problems and content around it, figure out like, how do I frame this? How do I say it? What's working? What problems are working the most? Which ones are not? Then I would craft a sales strategy around it. So that might be a webinar or something along those lines. And I would offer a one-on-one service or group coaching program in the beginning. This is actually how we launched the Video 4X Effect years ago. And, we did $1 million in our first 9 months with that product. And we just launched it as a one-on-one service and a coaching program. And then later came the course. We did a course after the one-on-one service. After the group coaching program. In fact, the group coaching program, the recordings of the group coaching, those calls we did in our group, it was a 6-week like group coaching program. The recordings of that actually became the first version of the course. We just took the recordings, plugged them in. It's like, hey, 6 videos to learn all of this stuff. And that did really well. And then we turned it into a formal course down the road once we knew what worked, what didn't work, how to teach it, how not to teach it, what to put in, what to not put in. We learned all of that stuff along the way. So with that being said, those are the first 3 steps. After you do your initial sort of offer, we have to learn how to read the data. We have to understand what the data is telling us. So there are industry standards. There are numbers that we should be hitting. There are numbers that will tell you whether you're on the right track or you're off. And so when we start to look at all of this stuff, when we start to look at like the numbers of our launch, we can tell what was off and where. So if we start to look at the numbers and you're like, hey, Brandon, my first sales strategy with the one-on-one offer got like 100 opt-ins, but I only got like 1 call booked. I'm like, okay, great. How many of them showed up to the webinar? And you go like 25. And I'd say, okay, great. So you got 100 people opted in, which is great. 25 of them showed up, which is a 25% show up rate, which is actually really good. Like a 25% show up rate is good. There's nothing wrong there. So that usually means the topic was good. It means that the content leading up to the webinar was probably good enough. But then once they went through the webinar, you only got 1 person out of the 100, because you're going to send a replay and all that stuff out, to book a call. Not even to buy, just to book a call. To 1% book a call, like that's not good. And that usually means like there's something off in the messaging of the webinar. So now we can pinpoint where the issue was. But the problem is you guys have to understand how to read the data. We have to understand the data will always tell you where the problem actually is and what needs to be fixed and addressed and what doesn't. So sometimes people even spend their effort and time and energy fixing something that's not even broken. They're just like, I just need a higher opt-in page rate. And it's like, no, you don't. You're hitting 44%. Or 34%. Like, but your conversion rate is at 0.5%. So stop spending so much time trying to get your 34% to a 40% and spend some time going from 0.5% of conversion rate to a 2.5%. And again, this comes with experience. This comes with knowing where to look and how to fix it. But reading the data is really important. And then when we start to read the data, if things are starting to work and maneuver, the next thing we want to focus on is systemizing slowly. And I think this one gets overlooked because everyone gets so focused on, let me just drive the sales, let me drive the money, let me drive the sales, let me drive the money, get more leads, all of that stuff, right? So if you don't address the systemization of everything, what's going to happen is you might be making more money, but now you're stressed out more, you're working longer hours, and not only did you open up more time consuming problems because you're pushing out all your content, now you're sending out all your own emails. Now you're running your own launches, and now you're closing your own clients. Like, that's all great. And that's what everyone wants, right? But if we don't systemize and things actually start working, the reason people get into these traps is because they realize once things start working, it actually opens up more problems for you. And what I mean by that is, like, if you get so focused on how to drive sales, get more leads, build a bigger audience, focus on my content and my sales mechanisms, my sales funnels and all of this stuff, and it starts to work, which is great, which is what everyone wants, you actually just open up a whole nother can of problems, because now you have fulfillment, you have customer service, you have answering questions in the Facebook group. So when things start to work, it actually increases your workload. Most people don't think it does or realize that it does, but it increases your workload. So now you're working more hours. You probably have more expenses, because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to try to hire people, virtual assistants, things like that. And if you don't systemize that properly or train them properly or have the right systems and training in place for them, they actually will cause you more time, because now you have to answer their questions every single day. Sometimes they mess things up and you got to go fix it. So when I say systemize slowly, there are things that we could be doing slowly as we grow that will help this whole process. So some of the things you could be doing is, like, if you are getting some customer service questions and things like that, just create a document, copy paste the questions in a document, copy and paste your responses. And guess what? Now you're slowly building up a customer service databases of responses where a virtual assistant can come in, recognize, hey, here's the question and here's the answer. So now when they come in, you're not having to train them. You're not having to answer their questions. You're not having to worry about them sending out the wrong thing. It's boom. It's just all right there. Other things that you could do too would be systemizing the style of content you like. You can create, documentation on the content you like, what's working, what's not working. So if you hire a virtual assistant, they can come in and follow that sort of standard or that guide. There are also things like your email sequences. You can document those. You can process them out. Also inside of Business by Design, the biggest thing that I appreciate about Business by Design is all these systems that I'm talking about right now, they're actually already in Business by Design. So if you do join and you're interested in wanting to systemize slowly or even quickly, there's a guide on everything. It's like how to hire, how to systemize, how to train. You want to do a webinar, the whole system and process is already there, step by step. Just send your virtual assistant there and they will be able to set up a webinar. So systemizing becomes very easy with Business by Design. You almost don't even have to worry about it. But once you start to systemize slowly and you understand what you should systemize and when, what starts to happen is you actually grow a lot faster because you have more time to focus on the things that move the needle, like sales and marketing and working with the students, and everything else is just kind of taken care of. You don't have to really worry about it. And so you actually grow faster, number one, but number two, you do it without it taking up more and more of your time. So you get more of your time back as you grow. And I had to learn this mistake the hard way. It was like, I remember when we were doing $500,000 a year and my life was miserable because I was working all the freaking time, working on the weekends. Nothing was systemized. I was doing so much of this stuff mainly, and I freaking hated it. Had I just slowly done it in the beginning, it would have been a totally different experience. When we hit that $500,000 mark, I would have probably really enjoyed my life, So we want to start doing that. Now, the last and final step is we just want to repeat the process. So once you get through this, you probably have some one-on-one clients. You probably have maybe a group program. Things are slowly starting to work. But now what we want to do is we want to take everything that we've learned and we want to reapply it back to the process and then go through the process again. So when we go through the process again and you start to write out all the problems that your skills and knowledge fix, I promise you, you're going to have more problems, in-depth problems, bigger problems because of the learnings that you got. You're going to be able to look at your one-on-one clients or the group clients. You're going to be able to see what worked, what didn't work. And you're going to be able to go through that process again with a higher level of awareness of your audience, of your people, probably of you, of your teachings, which is the other thing. Your teachings will probably develop and get bigger and stronger and more deep, just like mine have over the years, because I just learned more and more by working with more and more people, what works, what doesn't work. So now you're going to know those skills and knowledge. But not only that, but you're going to have a better idea of how to start messaging it and testing it and the content you can create from it. You can maybe take one of the pieces of content that worked really well and go deeper with it now. There's so much more you can do. And now when you go through the sales process again, you already have the experience of doing it once. You know what worked. You know what didn't work. You get to repeat it. It's going to be stronger. It's going to be better. And then you can even maybe at this point change the offer or do the offer again. You can still do the one-on-one or another round of group people. But at this point, you can also, if you wanted to, start putting that program together. You can also pre-sell the program at this point, which is like you basically say, hey guys, we're going to have this come out on this date. You can pre-buy it now at a discounted rate. Here's the price. So you can do it that way. Or you can offer it with your one-on-one as a bonus. You can say, hey guys, I have an offering a one-on-one service, but we have a course coming out that I'm going to give you absolutely for free if you sign up the next week. It's coming out in 2 months or whatever it may be. And then again, you're going to read the data and then you just look at, how to systemize more of the stuff. What's taking up the most amount of your time? Is there a system or a process or a software or a virtual assistant or someone you can bring in to help you with that, right? These are all the things you start to do. And then guess what? We repeat the process again. But now you got to understand every time you repeat the process, it's going to get bigger, better, stronger, more effective. And so as you start to do it, this is how we start to grow the businesses to the levels that we want. But at the same time, doing it with structure, doing it with process, doing it based off of data, not running around guessing. We're not throwing videos against the wall. We're not just running around with like a chicken with our head cut off, like doing a webinar here and just testing this topic over here and then doing another webinar over here, then trying to launch this thing and then putting together this program and then trying to sell it. No, it's structure. There's calmness around it. There's peace around it. There's steps to follow. There's data to be read and understood so that you can start to grow while maintaining your time, while maintaining your peace and your sanity. So again, for those of you who want help going through that process, you want to see exactly how to do it, and not only how to do it to get you from 0 to 100, but how to get to 100K to 500K and then 500K to $1 million, because there's different stages and levels. Business by Design is where that happens. And then having a mentor like me who's helped hundreds of Business by Design students go through this process is absolutely vital, because I'm going to be sitting down with you guys in a group setting every week for 6 to 8 weeks, going through a lot of this, helping you fine tune it, put it together, piece it together, the mistakes to avoid. And not only that, but we're going to give you a whole slew of other bonuses as well. So we have a lot more bonuses than just that to help you guys master this. So you can get from like that 0 to 100 or that 100 to 500,000 or 500 to $1 million that you want to get to. So if you guys join Business by Design, we're going to give you that to you absolutely for free, that whole bonus package. And I'll just give you the link now, brandonlucero.com/BBD, brandonlucero.com/BBD. If Business by Design is open, you can go ahead and click on our link and enroll, send us the receipt. If it's not open yet, just join our wait list and we'll let you know when it's open, and then you can join and send us the receipt, and you'll have all the information about all the bonuses and stuff there. So brandonlucero.com/BBD. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully this is a great episode for you, and I'll see you on the next one.
Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.